welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's show, it's fire burning on the dance floor. We got some hot seat candidates. Whose seat is warming up just a little bit as we head into the 2025 NFL Draft? I'll give you 5 players that should be looking over their shoulder as the Texans get to select some possible starters for this team in this year's draft class. I'll tell you who should be worried and who needs to bring it during OTAs, during training camp, and during the preseason. Before we get into those names, though, we are still on the road to 30,000 subscribers. We need 1,365 subscribers to get that goal. Help me out. I'm a kid from Houston trying to support my hometown team. I want this to be the best Texans channel here on YouTube, and it is because of guys and gals just like you. If you want free Texans content, go down and hit that subscribe button right now. Let's get into today's show. Texans on the hot seat, John Metchie III. This one hurts me, guys. This one hurts me a little bit, and I'm not going to lie. It's because I really want Metchie to be good, like he was a former second-round pick for this team, and I really want I think all of the city of Houston is really behind Metchie and was really rooting for him to, show out and show up, ever since he got past and beat cancer. Everybody really wanted him to show up and be one of the guys for this team. And, we've seen glimpses of it, right? We've seen points where Metchie looked really good. This game up against the Lions this past year in the Battle Reds, he had 5 catches, 74 yards, and a TD. But the wide receiver room, it's still in flux, right? Like, I don't think anybody is really trusting John Metchie to have an amazing season or trusting him to be one of the guys for this team, especially with what the Texans have done so far in free agency. They traded for Christian Kirk. They signed Braxton Berrios, which maybe he's more of a special teams guy, but also Justin Watson might be a sneaky name and might be somebody who is in the wings to replace a guy like a John Metchie. I just think, with how this Texans team is forming and going into the NFL draft, the Texans are rumored to be looking at a lot of wide receivers, right? A lot of people are mocking the Texans possibly taking one in round 1. And as I've said, we've had those glimpses of remind us why he was a second-round pick out of Alabama. Is that enough to keep him in this room? He's on the final year of his rookie deal, and I think he'll get a shot. He'll be there during training camp. He'll be there during the preseason. I just don't know if at the end of the day, when the Texans send out their final 53-man roster, if Metchie's going to be one of the names on that list. And not only Metchie, but there's also another receiver on this hot list. It's Xavier Hutchinson. And I really do think it's going to be one of these two guys. I think the Texans will keep one of these young players, but the other one, it's going to be the end of his time with the Houston Texans, unfortunately, coming this summer. I really do think Xavier Hutchinson shows a lot of potential. We saw it during the preseason last year, right? There was a lot of teams that were kind of salivating at the idea of the Texans cutting Xavier Hutchinson and then picking him up on the waiver wire. I think that's one of the reasons why the Texans kept him on the roster and let go of a guy like a Noah Brown. He gives you a lot in the special teams, and that might keep him over Metchie. Now, I don't know if they want to turn Metchie into a punt returner. I think that's the best way for him to make the roster. If he can beat out Braxton Berrios as a kick returner, punt returner, I think that's his best path forward. But Xavier Hutchinson gives you more overall in terms of, special teams. He can, help on kickoff return, kickoff, punt return. He can do it all. I want to hear from you folks at home because I really do think it's going to be hard to keep both these guys on the roster once again, especially if the Texans draft a wide receiver in this year's draft. Let me know in the comment section, though. If you had to choose one to keep, who would it be? Type Metch for John Metchie, type X for Xavier Hutchinson. Let me know down in the comment section. This might surprise some people. I'm going to type my Metch. Maybe it's just bias. Maybe it's because I really want to see this young man succeed. But I think Metchie is just there. He's like on the precipice of being a really good receiver, a really good wide receiver 3 in this league. And like I said, I think his only option is if Metchie works on his punt return. If Metchie can be the punt returner for this team, be a kick returner on this roster, then I think he has a roster spot. But if he's not a punt returner, if this coaching staff, if Frank Ross, if they can't trust him to be back there and return punts, I don't think he has a spot on this team. Now, let's go into the next guy on the Texans hot seat list, Juice Scruggs, offensive lineman, and it's really interchangeable with this one between Juice Scruggs and Jarrett Patterson, because I think these guys are going to be battling it out for the center spot. And I'll say this, I've heard a lot of pundits, a lot of people around, the Texans who cover this team, content creators alike, say, oh yeah, Juice Scruggs possibly a guard for this team. The only way I'm playing Juice Scruggs is if he's at center. He doesn't have the strength to play guard, in my opinion, and that's when it comes down to, who are you keeping, Juice Scruggs or Jarrett Patterson at that center position? I hope it's Juice Scruggs, right, the former second-round pick out of Penn State, but I don't know. Like, they moved him to guard, and they started Jarrett Patterson, and I don't know if this team really has more confidence in Scruggs or Patterson. So that's why he's on the hot seat for me. Not that he won't make the roster. I think at the end of the day, a former second-round pick, this is going to be his third year in the league. Same with Jarrett Patterson, who was a later-round pick. I think both those guys end up making the final 53-man roster, I think, right? But depending on where they want to go at the center spot, especially with this new Nick Caserio offense that he's bringing over, the new offensive coordinator, I am just not sure if Juice Scruggs is going to be the starter over Jarrett Patterson. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally misreading it, but I could see a world where Jarrett Patterson is your starting center and Juice Scruggs is the backup. In no shape or form do I want Scruggs, though, to be one of the starting guards for this team. I'll say that right now. I'd rather have Laken Tomlinson be one of those starters and Titus Howard be the other, maybe Blake Fisher at right tackle. But it is yet to be seen. We will see what happens with this Texans offensive line, especially after the NFL draft and who the Texans take at the offensive line position. We'll have two more guys on the hot seat coming up in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsor over at Game Time. The Rockets going up against the Warriors. If you want to get tickets to that game, if you want to root on our Rockets, well, I know where you can get tickets. It's with our friends over at Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Texans Today and Chat Sports. You can get great deals on last-second tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater, and more. All-in prices show you what you pay without hidden fees or expenses. And Game Time, they have zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for an average savings of 18%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. New Game Time Picks feature. I absolutely love it. It basically filters out all the fluff and shows you the very best deal. So I have it right here, and you see right here, it says it's a super deal, which means what that ticket would normally cost, it's discounted heavily. So it shows you the best discounts if you're somebody who's always looking like on the, I'm not going to say like the clearance rack, but if you're looking for a good sale, that's exactly what the Game Time Picks does for you. You can get Rockets tickets, you can get Astros tickets, or whatever comedy show, theater event is in your area, Game Time has you covered. And for my listeners, I got a special deal for you. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Now, let's go to the next guy on the hot seat list. And I know it's a lot of offense, and I'm going to keep on going offense because I don't know if there's a lot of guys on the defense on the hot seat. I'm going to go Dameon Pierce, running back. And I had high hopes for Dameon Pierce after his rookie season, right? He was electric. Somebody who this team thought maybe we could build around a guy like Dameon Pierce. And, the first year under DeMeco Ryans, they were like, yo, Dameon Pierce, and we'll bring in Devin Singletary as a complimentary back. And then Devin Singletary ended up being the lead back for this team. Next offseason, obviously, they brought in Joe Mixon, and he is now the workhorse, the lead back. He got an extension after the Texans traded a 7th-round pick for him. But as your RB2, I don't know if this team, if this front office, if this coaching staff really trusts Dameon Pierce. And with all the rumors around running backs this offseason, they've, at least talked or met with Brashard Smith from SMU, Jaydon Blue from Texas, Kaleb Johnson from Iowa, and then the two Ohio State running backs, TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. They met with all these guys in the pre-draft process. That's telling me they are looking at running back heavily. They want to add a running back to this team to possibly be the RB2, to be a, thunder lightning back with Joe Mixon. And I know everybody looks back to his 2022 stats, which were fantastic. In 13 games played, he had 220 carries, 939 yards, and this is the big one right here. 7 rushes of 20-plus yards and 4 touchdowns on the season for Dameon Pierce his rookie year. And he was running through guys. Funny enough, in that picture also, you see the newest Texan, EJ Speed, in the left-hand corner of that one. But, I was a big fan of Dameon Pierce. I think all Texans fans were. And I hope Nick Caserio can get the most out of him. And I could see why he wants to go a little bit younger at the running back spot, especially after you already paid Joe Mixon. Dameon Pierce on the final years of his rookie contract. I could just see them going with the running back in the draft, and maybe Pierce still makes the final 53-man roster. But at least I could see him taking a backseat to Joe Mixon and that rookie running back. And I think it's going to be hard for Pierce because he gives you something in the kick return game. But as I said with Metchie earlier, they brought in a guy who's a specialist as a kick returner, punt returner in Braxton Berrios. So, do they want to have Dameon Pierce as your RB4, RB3 even? I don't know. This team loves Daria Gumbawale because of what he brings to the special teams room and the leadership that he brings into this Texans locker room. I could see them going with a guy like Gumbawale over Pierce just for what he brings to you on the back end. And we even saw last year in certain situations in passing downs and third down, situation passing downs, they went with the Gumbawale over a guy like Dameon Pierce because they trust him more as a pass protector. So I could 100% see this team either trying to trade Dameon Pierce to a team that needs a running back, maybe for a 7th round or 6th round pick. His trade value is very, very low after 2 non-productive seasons for Pierce. But I'm hoping the best for Pierce, but I don't see it going into this offseason. And lastly, I'll give you one guy on defense. It's Jimmie Ward, defensive back. They just paid Jalen Petrie some big-time money. They also traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson this offseason. So could that spell near the end for Jimmie Ward? And I know the comments are already going to be flowing with, Jeremy, you think DeMeco Ryans is going to cut his best friend? Him and Jimmie Ward are boys. I know that. But Jimmie Ward's missed 14 games in the past 2 seasons. He's on the last year of his deal. So, it kind of makes some sense to cut Jimmie Ward, right? Especially if he's not going to be an important part of this team, of this secondary. Yes, I know DeMeco Ryans loves what he brings to this team in terms of, a leadership factor. But as I'm looking at this Texans defensive back depth chart, we look good with the starting 5. I'm cool with this. Stingley, Gardner-Johnson, Petrie, Bullock, Lassiter. I like what we have here. And even at some backup positions, right? Ronald Darby, I like. They brought in Smith as another, special teams guy, back-end secondary guy. And I know, like I said, everybody's going to talk about the relationships. Relationships are a lot. DeMeco Ryans loves him some Jimmie Ward, and Jimmie Ward loves him some DeMeco Ryans. But I will say this. This was the same argument that everybody said about Bobby Slowik. Everybody said, no way DeMeco Ryans is going to let Bobby Slowik go as the offensive coordinator because they're best buds. But DeMeco Ryans did it this offseason. It was hard for him, and I actually respect him so much as a man and as a coach for making that decision because I know if I was with one of my boys, if I was with one of my really good friends and I was working with him and he wasn't doing up to par of what he needed to do, it would be hard for me to say, yeah, we got to let him go. We got to fire you, even though you're one of my really good friends. Everybody at home, would you be able to fire one of your best friends if y'all were working together? That's basically what DeMeco Ryans had to do this offseason with Bobby Slowik. And I know he has that same sort of relationship with a Jimmie Ward, but if it's making this team better, if they can maybe draft a safety in the later rounds to somewhat be another, secondary guy, replace Jimmie Ward a little bit, I could see them making that move. Now, one more time, here are my Texans that are on the hot seat going into the 2025 NFL draft. I want to let it go to you, though. Who do you think is on the hot seat going into the draft? Is it one of these guys? Is it somebody that I didn't mention? Let me know down in the comment section who you think is on the hot seat. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to continue the conversation, if you want to hit me up on social media, it's at Jeremy Chuggs on Twitter. And make sure you hit that sub button. We are on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's subbed so far. If you want free Texans content all year long, you know where to go. Right here on Texans Today. Just go down and hit that subscribe button.